Hello, listeners. I'm Christine Passo, and I'm the host of Unconscious Evolution. We are continuing with Samantha Sklenar as a part two from last week's part one. Buckle up, because she has a lot more to talk about. So, what
Yeah.
has been really powerful in your own healing that you can speak to? Because it's these kinds of detailed stories that open the minds of people who have no idea what it's like and can resonate with you. And so
Yeah.
we would love to.
You mean like the lessons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lessons or what, I'm going to let you answer it. I don't even want to say yes to lessons because I want you to speak to whatever it is that you're feeling.
Okay. I'll speak to how I interpret it.
Yes, please. Yep.
Yeah, so like let's say the ADHD, yeah? Like for me, what I needed to heal in order to heal that was confidence. Because for as long as I was going to rely on something outside of myself in order to get the job done, I was never going to be confident. And I needed to go through all the anxiety. I mean, when I first started holding I'm tying this into work, but that's how I experienced it. Yeah. Like I first started holding group healing sessions with women in my apartment. And I would have like 8 to 10 girls, sometimes even more, come over every week. And before, I would literally have full blown panic attacks. Like I couldn't even fathom how on earth another delusion that I bought into, part of my generation, I think, is that marijuana is healthy. I genuinely believed that marijuana is healthy. And please, whoever's listening, you do you. I zero judgment, but for my life, marijuana was not healthy and I was using it as a false sense of confidence, okay? And at that time I had stopped taking the Adderall, but it was still new. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this without Adderall? How am I going to do this without weed? How am I going to blah, blah, blah. Like I would actually physically shake. I would be so nervous. And then I had like slight concept of how to do healing. I was still learning at the time, but I would just like do whatever healing on myself to try and like change my state. And I would just like feel what I was feeling. Like, which also I want to say that there is, I think, I want to use this word. I don't want it to be misinterpreted, but that's what's coming. A science to feeling, okay? Like,
Mm.
because we can feel without, if we don't have any kind of education about how to feel effectively, we can get lost in the feelings. We can do really crazy things when we feel those feelings without some type of knowledge of how to do this in an effective way so I don't hurt myself and I don't hurt others. There's probably a plethora of ways to feel, really, but you want to have some type of education, or I suggest that you have some type of education about how to feel effectively so that like you can take care of yourself in the process and also not hurt other people. So that was like massive, having to deal with these panic attacks before holding a healing circle. And like getting into my power. That was like part of the process of getting into my power, deciding I can do this, because that's what you talk about childhood. From my childhood, I had the program, I can't do this, which came up. That was the internal story towards so many things. Like, even if I think about myself as a teenager, I was a competitive dancer. I was so into dancing. It was my life. And there were so many moments where if I just understood, if I changed my belief that I can do this, I would be even more amazing than I was. Like, but I didn't know. I didn't know. It wasn't the time. Anyway, so that's like one specific thing that I need to change. I can do it, and I'm confident in myself as a being, not as what I look like, in my name, in my title, in this bullshit, in that bullshit, but like who I am, like internally as a spirit, as a soul showing up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing, connected to what else? Even the weed was confidence. Okay, you want to talk about a massive lesson? Let's talk about the acne. I
Mm.
mean, there was acceptance. I mean, I genuinely hated myself for most of my life and I didn't know it. That's also obviously connected to being insecure and not having confidence. But like,
Right.
there were so many times where I just like looked in the mirror and I hated the person looking back at me. And I didn't know that it wasn't normal, or it wasn't effective, it wasn't healthy, it wasn't creating anything that I wanted, to hate myself. And the first time I did this really powerful exercise, I was still in New York. I don't even know if I was meditating at the time, but I remember I was in my apartment and I did this exercise where you look at yourself in the mirror. And yeah, I'm just going to say the honest truth about the exercise. You have to look at yourself naked in the mirror.
Okay.
That was the first time that I had did that, and I cried hysterical because I had never done that and I hated what I saw. And I was like, how can I hate this thing? Like that, there are just like some moments in your life that it's like I was talking about earlier, like you cannot go on like that. I was like, I cannot go on like this. Like I was so young at the time, but I was like, if I'm this age now, what was I, 22, 23? If I'm this age now, like I don't even think I'm going to make it to 30, like going at the rate that I'm going, taking all those drugs, you know what I mean? Like, so hating myself, like what, I'm just going to be a mess. I was just like, no. And so accepting myself, like acne, the whole lesson of acne, I had to deal with every single demon, every single dark thought, emotion, unprocessed trauma, all the things. I mean, the most minute moments that I never even consciously remembered, but were stored in my body and stored
Yeah.
in my energy. All the moments of high school that I didn't want to remember.
Mhm.
All the times I hurt people that
Yeah.
I didn't want to remember. All the times that I got hurt so bad because of something I did. Like I was talking earlier about cause and effect,
Yeah.
where before I was like, oh, they did that to me. Okay, but what did I do to them so that they did that to me?
Oh my
Or,
gosh.
mhm.
Samantha, I don't think there's one thing that you have spoken about in this portion in answering my question that does not resonate with every single listener that is listening to this right now. Because, first of all, we're afraid to admit it. Nobody wants to say, we joke about it, right? Like we might be with our friends, especially as women, and say, oh, I hate my body. But anyway, it's the body I have to have. And we laugh it off. We sarcasm it away. But the truth is it eats us inside in so many different ways. And that's why I love that you went in detail with that, because every woman that is listening is going, I feel that way. And I don't want to tell anybody because I'm so incredibly ashamed that when I did that healing with you, the root of my grief that I was having such a hard time not suffering from. And I don't mind admitting this because I've been pretty open about just my transformation, but it was that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't enough feelings attached to my childhood, right? Even though I keep evolving. I mean, I know I'm enough, but it attached to my grief. And it kept me thinking I should have done something different in order for my baby to still be alive, right? But it came through. I
Mhm.
felt that release immediately. And I have felt, you talked about peace earlier, and I've been talking about peace, through life transition, not chasing happiness, not choosing joy. Those are momentary band aids, but finding peace. And in what you talked about, in accepting yourself, in loving yourself, you found peace. And it is that peace that connects you to so many other things in your life and opens you up to the universe for a different kind of peace that you never ever imagined would bring you the happiness and joy that you're seeking.
100%. And thank you so much for sharing. And I feel like, yeah, I'm just really happy for your life, like for you as a person out there, and like knowing that you get to live your life and with this part healed, and that, because when you feel better, everyone else around you feels better. It's like the ripple effect, so that's just like amazing.
Yeah.
um, but we were talking earlier about like the evolution, and we never really arrived. Like, let's talk about acceptance. That for me has probably been, because it's going on until today, like has been a constant evolution. Just like I said earlier, when I thought I was in my power and universe is like, here's another opportunity to be deeper in your power. Acceptance is the same. Like part of, even what I was sharing earlier, like the lesson, it was when I said I didn't want to look at, when I thought something was wrong with me because of the challenge that I'm experiencing, like, no, just accepting that, like, this is part of me. This is part of my story. This is part of my experience. And when that acceptance comes, like, it is so powerful. And To be honest with you, like part of my whole desire why I even care about working with women, you also spoke about women, like how they share the, I'm jumping all over the place, but yeah, again, it'll tie in. um I have needed to have like energetic boundaries with that, but like I used to get so devastated when I saw a woman hating herself for not loving herself. It genuinely hurts my heart. Like before it used to just like destroy me. I've needed to like, yeah, have some boundaries and like understand that's also not helping anyone.
Yeah.
But I think that like men and women, we all need to accept ourselves, but I just personally I don't know the road of a man's journey to acceptance as intimately as women. So that's why I choose to work with women regarding that. But um yeah, like I look at every woman and I'm like, if you could only see what I see in you, like if you could only see how amazing you are, and like I will tell you actually something that's coming up for me right now. I joined a gym recently. I never been part of a gym before, but they have all types of classes and I like to go to classes, okay? And it's like incredible. And I've been really enjoying it, but I'll be so honest with you, being in the women's locker room, you
Mm.
see so much and I can walk in there and I feel like I'm obviously sensitive to this like energy and stuff and people's feelings, but like I can feel when the woman isn't loving herself. And it's not about being perfect. Oh my gosh, like I also have days where I'm not, feeling 100% thrilled with myself or something like that. Like I'm not trying to, I hope I'm not coming across as like judgmental or something. I'm really coming across of like I see the deep, deep need in the world for women to love and accept themselves because that is part of being in our power. And when we're in our power, we serve everyone else better. Like we have this like magnetic light inside, but it cannot shine if we hate ourselves. But unfortunately, most of us brought up in a system where
Yeah.
we're taught to just effing hate ourselves
Yeah.
and compare ourselves to the next woman who has it all figured out, who's always perfect, who's all the things, and we're shitty. That's such a lie. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. It's such a lie. And like, I just so deeply, deeply, like, my prayer for every woman and every man is that they accept themselves because it's like one of the massive keys to this game of life, truly. Like,
It is.
truly.
And you know what? Like I've talked about acceptance, you've talked about acceptance, and I want to be really clear with our listeners because before
Yeah.
I understood and had an awareness about true acceptance, I thought what it meant was, well, I just have to accept. So, quick sidebar here. I grew up with somebody in my life telling me that I was fat, that I had a big butt. And so when I was young, right? When I was young. So what did I do? I grew up always thinking it didn't matter how thin I was. I mean, it didn't matter. It was, oh, but these pants aren't going to fit because I have a big butt. Like I'm fat, right? All these ridiculous things that women hear in their minds all the time. But so when I say acceptance and when you talk about acceptance, we don't mean it in a form of, well, I have to accept that I have a big butt, which I do not, right? But it's not accepting that. It's accepting this is my body and it is what it is. And I'm happy with that. I accept every single part of me. It's not good. It's not bad. Like that's the beauty of truly accepting is there's no judgment involved in it. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about this, but there's no judgment in accepting. It's just a matter of embracing and letting it be. And so I wanted to be really specific so that our listeners, my listeners understood the difference because again, I didn't know the difference before. I thought it was just, oh, I just have to accept I'm getting old or I just have to accept. No, it's not the way to accept. To accept for it to actually be peace is different.
Amen. And since, acceptance was a massive part of my journey, I have been through many shades of acceptance that I thought were acceptance, but they were not acceptance. And
Yeah.
yeah, what you highlight, that's such a good clarification because also what I like to offer to people is that, like, how I see it, the way I would express what you're saying is that you are accepting the part of you that's beyond your body. So, however, that part of you is expressing itself in this moment is acceptable because it's that expression. If you want to call it your soul, if you want to call it your spirit, if you want to call it, I don't know what, your mind, whatever it is that you resonate with, but there is a part of you that's not your body Your body is an expression of that. And if we cling to the idea, which I think part of this like self-love movement on social media and like self-acceptance, it is connected to the physical body. We will always be let down because do you know what? Our physical body changes a million times in a day.
Yeah.
Forget about even in a week or a month. Like I was in this another delusion. Oh, if I accept my body, then I will be happy. But you know what?
Mm.
I accept my body one day. I needed to accept my body again later that day because it changed. And then the next day, and then the next day, and the next day. I'm like, this can't be it because I'm still dissatisfied. Like, if I identify with the body, if I say, oh, my body, let's talk about me today. If I say my body is acceptable today, it doesn't make sense because this body that I'm accepting in this moment has already changed. The body that I accept literally 2 seconds ago has already changed. Technically, somehow, even chemically in my body, it has changed. And so it's just like, yeah, just an amazing clarification that you make that it's beyond this one image of the body because yes, we will grow up, we will get older, whether you want to have longevity and you won't start to age until you're 90, whatever is your journey doesn't matter. Eventually, like we come here for a period of time, like we will need to deal with the phases of life. And I think if we connect, if we attach, I'll use the word attach, if we attach to one version as only that version is acceptable, we will consistently be let down and we will feel lost. But if we connect to the version of ourselves or the part of ourselves that is everlasting, that will still exist after the body is gone, that is the peace. That is that we can be like, oh, okay, that's how it's choosing to express today. That's how it's choosing to express tomorrow. Like, it's not because your body's looking this way or your face is looking this way. Like, when I was healing the acne, that's what helped me because, like, my skin was clear and then it wasn't clear. And then my skin was clear and then it wasn't clear. And I was like on this constant roller coaster of emotions and like despair. I was like, oh, my life is over. You know? So, yeah, I think that's such a wonderful clarification. And that's just what I would add to it.
It's like, I'll tell you, I've just had so much acceptance in my life happen over the last 4 months.
Mm.
And I see so much clearer now. And I do because of my level of acceptance of myself, of just who I continue to become, right? It's like you mentioned, I'm not just going to accept myself today. I'm going to accept for who I'm about to become in the next minute and et cetera, et cetera. And it's had me thinking about what a destructive partner I had been in my past.
Mm.
So here's an example. This is so
Wow. Thank you for
fascinating.
sharing this.
Oh yeah, it's like this is so fascinating. I've been watching reruns of Sex and the City, right? Love the show. So it came out 25 years ago, Samantha. Like it's been out forever. It's been out for I'm 54. It's been out for over or like half of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm observing these women, these characters who I love, right? Who constantly are talking about how they want to change the men they're dating, how they want to change their bosses, they want to change each other, like constantly arguing over what it is that they think they want in their minds versus the reality of acceptance. And I
Woo!
know it's so massive. And so I'm watching these episodes and I'm like, red flag, red flag, red flag that I never ever saw before because that level of acceptance, I wasn't ready for it. Most of us don't realize that like we walk around going, I accept my partner, I accept my husband, I accept my wife, I accept my kids, like I accept my parents, like all these things. And we don't. We really don't. Because meanwhile, in the back of our mind, we're going, well, I don't know why they're doing this. I wouldn't do it that way. Or, I hate when they do this. I don't want to be around them. And we're creating all these scenarios in our mind because we want them to change. And it has just
Wow.
opened up, like again, like broadening acceptance, but how we don't realize how important true and honorable acceptance is in our life and the peace that follows. Cause I'm just watching the show and I'm cracking up and I'm like, first of all, the show is dating itself, right? Cause I mean, there's so many phrases that are coming up that are like, oh my gosh, nowadays, I mean, we
Yeah.
would shun these women for saying these things, but it's just amazing what we think we know when we think we know it all versus staying curious, like we talked about earlier, and being open to that anything could change at any moment.
Mm, Just love that so much. And I also really appreciate about you that you were able to watch the show and laugh, because I will be honest, like I it's hard for me to watch, or I have trouble picking things to watch because there are so I have found it doesn't have to be the reality. I have found that there's not as much of a selection when it comes to like conscious movies or conscious TV shows where the concepts that they're putting forth are loving, are accepting, are rooted in healthy communication. Like that's what I want to put into my mind. And there are definitely more now than ever. And I'm so grateful to whoever you are making that available to us. Thank you. I'm so, so grateful, because once upon a time there was nothing.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that you can watch it and laugh. And I think that says so much, just like about you as a person, like your lightness that you bring to any situation. Because I'll be honest, like I've been in a scenario like that. Like, let's say my husband can definitely attest to this, or I would get like frustrated, I'm like, oh, there's nothing conscious, and like I would get a little bit annoyed. So thank you for inspiring me that I can bring that lightness and just giggle at it and like accept that, yeah, that's where our consciousness as like the group was at one point in time, and that's okay. It doesn't have to like mean something horrible about this moment.
Yeah. No, not at all. And that really does speak to how powerful that acceptance is. Like I know I keep saying it. First you have to be aware, right? Like you have to be aware that something is off. Like we
Yeah.
have to own that. I had to own it in myself. Like you talked about looking in the mirror and
Yeah.
that you were naked. I was not naked when I looked in front of the mirror. But I did. I looked in the mirror and I said, are you the person that you really truly want to be and who you think you are? And it was a hard, hard no on like
Powerful question.
one, yeah, like on 5, 6, 10 different, questions and answers. I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But,
Wow.
and this is what I teach to my clients, which is it's not about blame for how you're going to answer. It's not about blaming potentially these behaviors that you've had for decades, or talking about your parents. Like, no, it's not about blame anymore. It's what do you want to do from this moment on to
Mm,
become aware, to
mm,
create an acceptance and open your mind, because it is absolutely life changing. And having lived 45 plus years, really essentially miserably, like when you talked about how when you were 22 that you thought this cannot go on, like
yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to make it to 30 at
Yeah.
age 22. I don't know if I'm going to make it if I go on this way. And I can guarantee there are a lot of women out there who
Mm,
think, I don't know how I'm going to get through to the next day. But
mm.
what do? They choose joy, they chase happiness, and they put that band-aid on. But there is a way, and it's absolutely glorious.
Well said. Perfectly said. There is a way. There's always a way. Like, there's always a way. There's always a way. Like, that is so profound. You understand? Like, when we
Yeah.
actually let ourselves see that, because we can also get stuck in there's not a way. There's not a way. There's not a way, because maybe we don't consciously see it. Um, I'll tie this into my ambition. You asked, what is my ambition, or what is my, is that the question that you asked? What
Yep.
is my ambition?
Yep.
Yeah, to normalize or change the narrative around God and God and healing. Because for me, like asking for help, saying a prayer, saying, please help me see what I cannot currently see, for me, that is the most effective thing, the most effective way to handle any problem, because the answer, first of all, comes immediately if
Mm.
we're open to it. But if I leave myself alone in my little mind, closed off to no solution, I will be suffering forever.
Yeah.
But it's not until we open our mind, and this goes into personal, this goes into professional, like God's help. If you want to call it universe, if you want to call it God, do what works for you. But just know, like, there is another way. There's always a way, but we have to open our mind to the aspect of life that can make that other possibility available to us. But if
Yes.
we stay in our mind, like you were talking about before, something about like how much we think we know, like,
Mhm.
oh, I know everything,
Yep.
that, oh, I know all the possibilities that exist. With all due respect, no. There's
No.
always another possibility. There's infinite possibilities. And I really believe we're meant to like, yeah, I do believe we're meant to partner with this energy, whether you call it universe or God, just the all. the all knowing, the one that we all come from, that's even indescribable, if we partner with this, we can live such a magnificent life. Like there's help available all the time. There's ecstasy available all the time. It's not limited to a pill. Like it's available always when you're sitting looking at the sun, when you're sitting looking at a different human, when you're driving in your car, when you're having an interaction, when you're cooking a meal, when you're eating food, whatever you're doing, there's literally this bliss and ecstasy available all the time. But nobody knows it. Nobody knows it, you know? I just want everyone to know, like you're talking about, there's another way, there is another way. And like you were saying, like it's so beautiful and it's so amazing and it's available, but we just need to learn how. Because unfortunately, we went to school to learn a bunch of skills that nobody uses.
Yeah.
But we can learn the skills that are essential to play life. You know how people say, like, oh man, I wish I learned how to do taxes in school. I also wish everybody learned how to work with their mind, how to work with their emotions, and how to work with their energy, because it would create fulfilled people.
Yep. Yep.
Powerful people, real power, not ego power, because that's not even power, but they call it power. So, but
Yep.
real power.
So, I mean, that is really a great way to wrap up, which
Yeah.
I have decided. So this is the longest recording I've done. And so
Oh
what
my
I'm
gosh.
going, oh, no. But I wanted it to keep going because I'm actually going to turn it into a part 1 and part 2. So the people that are listening to this part right now will have listened to part 2, but I'm going to create a separate intro to say, hey, this is part 1. Like our conversation is so energetic and it's so enlightening. And I mean, it's just like a page turner in terms of people that are interested in learning how to improve their lives and just make changes. It's like, this is the episode. And I want to share with my listeners that Samantha and I, if you haven't noticed, listeners, the energy between Samantha and I and the chemistry and just the likeness for life and appreciation and acceptance and staying curious, that Samantha and I have partnered a bit that when you work with me and you work in my 18 session program, Samantha has created a very special option for you that I will let you know when you're ready for it, because this is all part of the process. But when you work with me, you're also going to be working with Samantha and something that she's created. So this is the beauty of keeping an open mind. This is the beauty of opening up to what we don't know, what that next step will be. And so we are living proof of that.
Yeah. And Christina, I want to share one more thing. So many things just like oh my gosh. Okay, really last thing from me at least. That what was coming to me today, I was listening to a song and it's a collaboration between two people. There was
Okay.
a original version of the song and then two people came together. I will share the song because it's this amazing. It's called Beautiful Day. It's by Mike Posner and they made a remix or a different version with a guy named Lincoln Jesser. It's called like Healing House version.
Okay.
And I realized that when two people, I read a book, I think it's this book, I'm not really sure. Please correct me, audience, if I'm wrong. I think it's How to Win Friends and Influence People, or it's Think and Grow Rich. I don't know which one. I'm pretty sure it's
Okay.
one of those. But they say where two people come together, something like when two or more people come together, God's presence is amplified. And I feel like when I listen to the one version by Mike Posner, it's amazing. But when I listened to this version that they came together to create this other like epic, amazing version, I was like, oh my God, like it was incredible. And I had such a beautiful experience listening to the song. And I feel like also when we come together, the impact is amplified, because like we bring together just two dynamite forces. And then when you bring more people together, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So I'm so grateful that we can collaborate in this way. And it's so meaningful to me. And yeah, just thank you so much. I'm so thrilled.
It's, something I want to add too is that I think a lot of people think that, oh, well, I'm going to work with Christine, right? And then I'll be good. No, it's about expanding as you grow, which is why it was so important to me to invite you in and ask if we could collaborate, because I want everybody that I touch to say, keep staying inspired, like be
Yeah.
inspired by these songs, and invite you to widen that universe of yours that just becomes so much more. And so it's never just about one therapist and you're done. It's never just about one coach and you're done. No, keep going, keep going.
Evolution, baby.
Yeah, yeah. So Samantha, thank you so much for, first of all, being you, for inspiring my listeners today, for sharing an amazing conversation. Listeners, as I mentioned, Her contact information is listed in the show notes. Reach out to her. She is absolutely spectacular, but you learned that for yourself today. So, listeners, thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, enjoy yourself, enjoy the moment, and try to discover what your unconscious evolution is.
Thank you, Christine.
Yay!